this homeless crisis situation. It's a complete scam, and no one wants to fix it. You know why? Cause homelessness is a freaking business. There's this tiny group of people who are raking in the cash off of this, while the rest of us are left to suffer. Let me explain the shady business behind it all. So let's say you're the head honcho of an organization that's supposed to be solving the homeless crisis in a big city like New York. Maybe you're running homeless shelters, building them, or giving out food to those in need. You're basically doing God's work, being all generous and noble. But man, you've got your work cut out for you. There are about 100,000 homeless people in NYC right now, including children. So, if you're gonna solve this issue, each of those 100,000 people is gonna need food, water, heating, a place to live, and job training to get them back on their feet. And that's gonna cost a lot of money. Luckily, the city of New York has a whopping $2.6 billion slush fund every single year to tackle this problem. $2.6 billion. That's a crazy amount of money. That breaks down to $26,000 for every single homeless person on the streets of NYC right now. And get this, on top of that, New York City has over 350,000 vacant units that no one is living in. Yeah, you heard me right. 350,000 units just sitting there waiting to be occupied. Maybe they need a little touch up, but they're ready to go. So, what the hell is going on here? Why isn't this crisis being solved? It's because there are some shady people making bank off of it all. It's a messed up situation, and we need to do something about it. If we just solved this crisis, there would be no need for a $2.4 billion slush fund, which means those folks wouldn't be getting those sweet $10 million and $350 million contracts anymore. They'd have to stop paying themselves million-dollar salaries, and we can't let that happen now, can we? So, what's a rational person to do in this predicament where you're making a literal fortune solving homelessness? But if you solve it, you'd stop making bank. Well, you do your best to stretch out this crisis as long as possible, of course. Instead of actually helping the homeless and giving them what they need to get back on their feet, you give them the bare minimum. Slap together a peanut butter sandwich, throw it in a bag, and hand it to them. Then, charge the city an arm and a leg for it. It's a messed up system, but that's how it goes. On the outside, you want to act like a saint who's just trying to help people. But behind the scenes, you're quietly siphoning as much money out of this homelessness business as possible. It's a reality that everyone is afraid to talk about out loud, but it's the truth. And that's why, even with this giant budget, homelessness in New York City is at its highest level since the Great Depression. There are almost double the amount of homeless people compared to 10 years ago. If you want to make bank off of the homelessness crisis, I got you covered with this step-by-step guide. First things first, you gotta cozy up to the most powerful people in your city, the mayor, the city council leader, whoever's running the show. These guys hold all the cards when it comes to giving out those sweet contracts for homeless services, and you wanna be the one they think of first. So, how do you win them over? Well, there's a few tricks up your sleeve. Go to the same parties as them, make some donations to their foundation, and buy in some thoughtful gifts. But the best way to get them in your pocket, get them to owe you a favor. Do some digging and find out what they're really into. Maybe their kid is a huge fan of some YouTuber. You could pay that YouTuber to send them a personal message or something. Get creative with it. Once they owe you, you're set. They'll be begging to know how they can repay you. And that's when you hit them with the big ask, a sweet contract for your homeless services. And hey, once you get that contract, you gotta make it last. Give the homeless the bare minimum, a crusty PB&J sandwich, a crappy shelter, and charge the city an arm and a leg for it. Milk the crisis for all it's worth, baby. Step 2, baby. This is where the real fun begins. You're going to create an organization that's supposed to support homeless people. It could be a construction company that's building shelters, a food production company that's bringing healthy meals to the streets, or even your own shelter. It doesn't matter what you choose, as long as on paper, you and your organization are fighting for a better life for the homeless. Here's the catch. Your organization isn't actually going to do much for the homeless. Sure, you'll have a few token efforts here and there, but the real focus is going to be on lining your own pockets. You're going to need to make sure that your organization looks good enough on paper to attract those juicy government contracts, but not so good that you actually have to spend any money on the homeless. This is where your connections with the powerful people in your city come in handy. With their help, you'll be able to secure those lucrative contracts without even trying. And since your organization isn't actually doing much for the homeless, you'll be able to pocket most of the money yourself. It's a win-win situation, really. You get to make a ton of money without actually having to do any real work. and the homeless people on the streets get a few token gestures from your organization that don't actually do much to improve their lives. It's a sad reality, but it's the way things are in the world of business. Step 3. Now it's time to cash in that favor. Go back to that powerful person in office and ask for what you want. Maybe it's a new $10 million contract, or even a $100 million one to help in the war against homelessness. If you've played your cards right and built a strong enough relationship, they'll undoubtedly say yes. After all, they owe you one, and they know that your organization is the perfect fit for the job. Congratulations, you've just secured another lucrative contract and added to your bottom line. Step 4. Overcharge. Once you have the contract, it's time to overcharge. Tell them that this is a big problem and they need to invest in it properly. If they care about the homeless, they should wire you tens of millions of dollars at the very least. How else are you supposed to fix this huge crisis? If your contract is to house 10,000 homeless people in a shelter and you estimate that it costs $10,000 for each person, that's already a $100 million contract. No one is going to look into the numbers or check if your quote is reasonable. So whatever number you say, within reason, will look reasonable to them. Overcharge as much as you can, because you know they will pay it. After all, they don't want to be seen as not doing enough to help the homeless, right? Step 5. Alright, now that we got all the cash in our account, it's time to put on the gloves and get to work. We can't just sit on our thumbs and let people catch on to our little scheme. We gotta make it look like we're doing something to help these homeless folk. But don't get too excited, folks. The key here is to do the bare minimum to get by and keep that money rolling in. We ain't here to do charity work, we're here to make some real cash. So, let's stick to the contract, shall we? No need to go above and beyond, just do what's required and pocket the rest. Heck, we could even cut corners and build some sketchy shelters that no one in their right mind would want to live in. But hey, if it saves us a few bucks and gets the job done, who cares, right? Step 6. Siphon out the catch. There are many ways to go about this, so feel free to get creative. You can hand out contracts to build shelters or food banks to other businesses that you happen to own and make an insane amount of profit by overcharging for your services. You can hire your friends and family and give them a royal salary. Put your politician friends and family on the payroll to send some money back to them, or put yourself on a fat salary. You can even use it to pay for exclusive gym memberships for your entire organization because you know it's mentally taxing to interact with so many homeless people all day. You have to sweat off all that poverty in the sauna and Equinox to improve the mental health of your employees, after all. And that's how you can make millions from helping homeless people. Be sure to subscribe and hit that like button.